Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Side. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jayam Swasaram Shukridrajagacharya Siddhara Sadasyaman Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Swami to Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai Jamuna Mai ki Jai Tulasi Devi ki Jai Bhakti Devi ki Jai Swami to Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Mother, you are welcome for
Hare
today's
Krishna.
class. Hare
Yes.
Krishna, nice to see you. Highly welcome. So you can
I am
start the
grateful.
class. Yes, now we can start, please.
Thank you very much. So I would just like to thank everyone there to be on this call, and also the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share something on this last day of Kartik. It's a very blessed day. At least for us here in America, it's the last day. And so we're very grateful to all of you. Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So from what I can understand, I'm just going to turn my volume up here. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, and the text is 12. And I'm just checking with the volume. Is the volume okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so we do the verse. I don't remember. We do the verse and then we do word for word translation.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, text 12. Now, and is it, I just share the verse and you repeat, or I just share the verse?
You chant the verse. If you want anybody to chant after you, we can also chant the slokas.
Okay. Okay. Naishkamyam apchuta bhava varjitam nasabhate jnanamalam niranjanam kutapuna sasvada abhadram ishvare nachapitam karmayad akaranam. Okay, so I will just chant this again, and then if anyone wants to chant, Naishkarmyam apachyuta bhava varjitam. Okay. Nasabhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta punasasvad abhadram ishvare nacharpitam karmayad abakaranam. Does anyone want to chant the verse?
Naiskamyam api achota bhava vajitam na sobate gyanam alam niranjanam kutaha punaha sasvad abhadramesvare na chapitam kamayadapi akaranam.
Anyone else?
Naiskaryanam api ashita bhavanajitam nan subati jnanan alam narajanam kutaha punyam savar abhayam sware narkarpitam karman yad api karyanam.
Okay, one other person, please.
Namya Piyashuta Bhava Vrijitam Nasubate Janam Alam Niranjana Janam Guta Punaha Sarvat Abadan Ishware Nasha Pitam Karma Yad Api Akaranam.
Thank you so much, Rati Devi Dasi. Thank you. Naishayam,
Naishayam,
self-realization,
Self-realization.
being freed from the reactions of fruitive work.
Being free from the reactions of fruitive work.
Api,
Happy
in spite of.
in spite of.
Achuta,
Achuta,
the infallible Lord.
the infallible Lord.
Bhava,
Bhava,
conception.
conception.
Varjitam,
Vajitam,
of.
the word of.
Na,
Na,
does not.
does not.
Sabate,
Sabate,
look well.
look well.
Look well. Gyanam,
Gyanam,
transcendental knowledge.
transcendental knowledge.
Alam,
Alam,
by and by.
by and by.
Niranjanam,
Niranjanam,
free from designations.
free from designations.
Kutaha,
Putaha,
where is.
where is.
Punaha,
Punaha,
again.
again.
Jasvat,
Sasvat,
always.
always.
Abhadram,
Abhadram,
uncongenial.
uncongenial.
Ishvare,
Ishvara,
unto the Lord.
unto the Lord.
Na,
Na,
not.
not.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and.
Arpitam,
Apitam,
offered.
offered.
Karma,
Karma,
fruitive work.
fruitive work.
Yat api,
Yat api,
what is.
what is.
Akaranam,
Akaranam,
not fruitive.
not fruitive.
Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the urge of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they're not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Please repeat, knowledge of self-realization.
Knowledge of self-realization,
Even though free
even though free
from all material affinity,
from all material affinity,
does not look well
does not look well
if devoid of a conception
if devoid of a conception
of the infallible
of the infallible
God.
God.
What then is the use
What then is the use
of fruitive activities
of fruitive activities
which are naturally painful
which are naturally painful
from the very beginning
from the very beginning
and transient by nature
and transient by nature
if they are not utilized
if they are not utilized
for the devotional service of the Lord?
for the devotional service of the Lord?
Srila Prabhupada's purport As referred to above, not only ordinary literature devoid of the transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also Vedic literatures and speculation on the subject of impersonal Brahman when they are devoid of devotional service. When speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above ground, then what to speak of ordinary fruitative work, which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service. Such speculative knowledge and fruitative work cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. Fruitative work, in which almost all people in general are engaged, is always painful. Either either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when subservient to the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also, it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of fruitive work is the personality of Godhead. And thus, when it is engaged for sense gratification of the living beings, it becomes an acute source of trouble. Om Gana Timirandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Amlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmine Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Haribol, dear devotees. Kirtan Ras. Oh my gosh. I am seeing this young teenager on this call. And so I'm so
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Haribol. So excited to see you, my love.
You
so, Haribol. So this chapter of Narada Muni instructing Vyasadeva is so relevant for us today, because this is the conversation, although we will go more into the conversation in the next chapter. However, here, the instruction that is given by the spiritual master to the disciple and the mood that this instruction is being given is very relevant for us to understand more about the mood between guru and disciple. So what I'd like to focus on today is this mood of authentic compassion. Authentic compassion. So what does authentic compassion means? We hear this often as devotees, that we are to be compassionate, right? This is one of the qualities, the very important quality of a devotee. And so there's a little story I would like to share about this understanding of compassion. When my spiritual master, and some of you, I'm knowing some of you are disciples of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. So when my spiritual master, our spiritual master, was leaving the planet, I because my husband Ekavir Prabhu and myself, we took care of him for 1 year before he left. And so I approached him just before he was leaving. And I asked him, I said, Gurudev, you know, you have given us so many instructions. And, you know, I personally would like to have some instruction that I could remember, that I can remember throughout my life, throughout the rest of my life. I want to be able to personally take this instruction to my heart and try my best, according to my capacity, to live according to this instruction. And so it was like 3 days before he left his body. And he said to me, he said, yes, I have given so many instructions. And at first he was kind of like, why in this mood of just being thoughtful, like looking at me like, why do you want some personal instruction? Of course, those were my thoughts, because he took some time. He was very reflective. And then he said to me, he said, in 3 days before he left, his voice was very soft and he couldn't speak so loudly. And he said, I want you to be compassionate to the devotees. And I was stunned. I was like, what? I just couldn't believe I was getting this instruction, because in my mind and in my intelligence and in my emotional body, I actually thought I was compassionate. I thought, wow, when my spiritual master asked me to just leave and go to a foreign country and just be there, then, you know, sure, I did that. And when he sent me there, he sent me on a one-way ticket, which means I had no way to get back. And while I was there, each year he would say, okay, you need to stay another year. You need to stay another year. You, myself, and those other persons that were there with us. And that turned out to be almost 8 years, almost actually 8 to 9 years. So I thought, I am compassionate. I'm compassionate. I did that. And then he asked us to come back and help start the institute, and so many different services that I had somehow by his mercy been engaged in, which I thought I was compassionate. And I really had to meditate on this desire of my spiritual master for me to, or this instruction for me to follow for the rest of my life, how to be compassionate. And so I can only share with you the realization, my personal realization, from hearing Narada Muni speak to his disciple Vyasadeva, because Narada Muni is helping myself and all of us to understand what it means to really be compassionate. What does that really mean? So the question that we often ask, or that we can ask ourselves, is, what does compassion really mean? Is it humanistic, that we're compassionate as human beings to each other, which means to be kind, to be caring, to be loving, to be supportive, all these beautiful, wonderful qualities of devotee that we can exemplify to the world? Is that what compassion means? Or does compassion mean giving everyone the knowledge that they're spirit souls and they're not their bodies? So the interesting aspect of this dialogue between between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva is helping us to understand that both are important. Both are important. Being humanistic is important, and understanding transcendental knowledge is important in order for us to really imbibe authentic compassion. And so here Narada Muni is showing Vyasadeva, who we know we know that Vyasadeva is not just an ordinary person, and that, he's a literal incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so here he is, he's been given this amazing responsibility in order to share Vedic knowledge. And so here we've heard for the last, I'm guessing, since we started this chapter, we've been hearing from so many great and wonderful devotees about this dialogue between Narada Muni, the guru, and the disciple. And so here, the example is given to us of how Narada Muni first approaches his disciple. So Sutta is explaining. So this is being explained in the scriptures, that when Narada Muni entered into this arena of sages, Narada Muni, he was smiling. He was smiling, which means that he had this wonderful mood that he was going to approach his disciple. Lesson 1. When Guru approaches the disciple, Guru is in a mood of encouraging and supporting and assisting the disciple. So here's Vyasadeva. He's playing this role of a disciple. Not only is he being a disciple that's, wanting to have instructions, he's also a disciple that is despondent. He's a disciple that's, in our terms, we would say that he's suffering some depression, right? He's having some deep emotions of sadness, of lamentation, emotions that makes him stop and really reflect on what is he doing. Now, here is Narada Muni, and he's saying to him that you have done so. Now he's glorifying his disciple, So here comes the guru. He's first of all, he's smiling, and then his disciple is kind of like, I'm just, depressed, despondent. And the guru is saying to him, oh, why are you despondent? You have done so many wonderful things. You have written so much that can help so many people. Even you've written the Mahabharata. How beautiful is that, right? He's like glorifying his disciple for what his disciple had done. And the disciple, he's hearing his guru. However, he's still having this feeling of despondency. He's still thinking, but there's something that I haven't done, and I'm not sure what that is. And so Narada Muni, Narada Muni, he's inquiring, he's asking in a mood of inquiry from his disciple. He says, well, are you satisfied with the body or the mind as an object of self-realization? He didn't just go to his disciple and just admonish him and tell him, what's wrong with you? Why are you in this mood of sadness and lamentation? Don't you know that you have all this knowledge? You have already shared all this knowledge. Well, what's your problem? That was not the mood of Narada Muni. So Narada Muni is teaching us the mood of a guru. So guru is kind, right? Now that kindness, it's not sentimental, because we will see that Narada Muni's kindness was to help Vyasadeva to understand what he had not done. And so he's saying to him, he said, well, but is that, he asked him a question, you know? And so then Vyasadeva, he responds to that question, and he says, he reflects first about this question that his guru asked him. So just think, many of you are initiated disciples. Some of you may be aspiring to be disciples. And let's just say your guru comes to you and say, you know, and ask you a question. So take a note, before he answers the question, he thinks about the question that the guru asks. And then he says to the guru, he says, yeah, even though he had done all the things that his guru is sharing with him, yes, it's true, he had written, you know, so much to help people, to assist people in the world. He said, even though you have done this much, even though I have done this much, he said, I'm still, you know, there's still something I'm not pacified. I'm not happy. I'm just not happy. There's something that is making me sad, is making me lament, is making me, the words in the Sastra is despondent. And so he says to his guru, he says, you know, can you help me to understand? Now, this is the mood of inquiry, right? Tadvidi paripate now paripashena sevaya upadashantateganam gyananastapadarshanaha. This is the mood of disciple. Disciple is inquiring in a mood of submission. And so he says to the guru, yes, I know I've done these things. However, I'm still not pacified because something isn't right. And so then he's asking this of his guru, you know, and then the guru, then he starts glorifying his guru. He starts saying, you know, all these beautiful, wonderful things about his guru. Now, what's important for us to learn in this one verse is the kind of exchange that a disciple and a guru have for each other when there is respect, when there is genuine love, when there's genuine compassion, when there is authentic compassion. Then there is a mood that is developed, right, between the disciple and the guru. And so he says all these beautiful things, and you can go back and read what the things that he says about Narada Muni, his guru. And he tells him that you're like an offspring of Lord Brahma, right? You'll have so much knowledge. And, you know, there's so many things that's mysterious about you because you worship the Supreme Lord. You know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he tells him, you're like the sun. He says, your goodness can travel all over the three worlds. You know, Narada Muni, they call him a transcendental space person. He can travel anywhere. You know, he's always reminding everyone in any planetary system about devotional service. That's his mood. That's his responsibility. And so he tells him, he says, you know, you're like the air, you can penetrate in the internal regions of anyone. You can actually get to the heart of anyone and everyone. And he said, and then he tells him, he says, which is pretty intense. He says, you are as good as the all-pervasive super soul. You're as good as a super soul. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn that the spiritual master is actually an expansion of the super soul. So here, Vyasadeva is glorifying his spiritual master, and his spiritual master is speaking to him in a mood of care, of compassion, of genuine, authentic compassion. That here is my disciple who he's done a lot of things. He's done a lot of service, and yet he's written so much to help so many people, and yet there is still something that he hasn't done. And he's aware that he hasn't done. So then Narada Muni again, in this beautiful conversation with the guru disciple, Narada Muni then says to him, he says, well, yes, you have broadcast the sublime message that you have not, you have not actually, because Narada Muni, because Vyasadeva has given impersonal Brahman realization, right? He's taken people to that level of understanding. And so then Narada Muni is saying to him, he says, well, you haven't. Remember, first he asked him a question, like, are you comfortable with giving the body and the mind as full realization? Now he comes back to him and he says, well, you haven't really glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And he says, that great sages, that's what they broadly give all these principles and all these regulations, and they do so many great things. They have so much understanding. However, they don't always describe the personality of Godhead because they don't have this knowledge. Because because Vyasadeva, he has to write this. He has to give us this Bhagavad Purana. And so then of course we know that Narada Muni is explaining to him about words that don't glorify the Lord, that they're useless, right? Useless. And so now he's saying to him, okay, now you know that it's important to really share with people the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Krishna, of the personal understanding of the Lord. Because as we know, many of you are very seasoned devotees, and so sometimes I think I'm talking to the choir. So please forgive me. I know that there are some devotees here that may be new, a little more new. So there are 3 levels of realizing God. And those 3 levels are Paramatma, Lord in the heart, right? Impersonal Brahman, Lord is everywhere, right? In everything. And then there is actual Bhagavan, which is personal knowledge of the Lord and personal activities of what the Lord does, who he is, where he lives, what he does, how we can actually have a relationship with him, right? Sambandha, we can have an actual relationship. And so now Narada Muni is saying, well, you haven't told people how we can have this personal relationship with the Supreme Lord. And so this is what is needed. This is perhaps why you might be feeling this sadness, this lamentation, this despondency. And so now we come to this text here. After we hear this beautiful narration or this beautiful dialogue between these 2 great souls, these 2 souls that their only concern, their only desire is to be able to compassionately serve humanity. That's their only desire. And so Narada Muni knows the only way that we can fully serve humanity is to be able to teach people about love of God. And so since Vyasadeva hadn't yet written about that, he reminded him, okay, well, you need to do that. You need to remind people about this. And so here we come to this text that explains knowledge of self-realization, even though free, even though somebody can be self-realized, means that they understand they're not their bodies. They have that realization. There's so many people now, even in America anyway, even people that are practicing, people that are practicing yoga, of course, they have that understanding. They're not the body. And there are people in the modes of goodness in America who, and I'm sure that's all over the world, who are aware that they're not the body. There are many different spiritual groups that we can go to that people know. They know we're not the body. They know that eating meat is not the best thing to do. They have this understanding. However, what may be lacking is they don't know about this personal Bhagavan understanding of the Lord, right? This is where the devotees of the Lord are so very important. This is the authentic compassion that we learn from the spiritual master. And the spiritual master passes that down to the disciple to help us to understand. First, we ourselves must understand more about this, or we must pray for the grace from the spiritual master to enter into this personal understanding of the Supreme Lord. And then we are able to then pass this on to others. That's what we are being called to do, the devotees of the Lord. And so then Narada Muni said, yeah, so this impersonal knowledge that you have shared, you have given this to humanity. He says, you know, this is not so, it's wonderful. You know, he encourages his disciple. Yes, it's wonderful you did this work. However, what will really help people to go deeper and to understand who they really are is to know the Lord. Because remember, if we're studying impersonal Brahman, there's only a certain amount of realization that we will get, even though we may know that we're not the body, right? We may know that God is existing within everyone. Now, ordinary, regular people can say to us, well, God is in you and God is in me, where God is in all of us, right? Without really understanding, who is this God? Who is it that they're really speaking about? So here Narada Muni is saying, he's explaining to him about fruitative activities. And so Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna about fruitative activities, right? Krishna is sharing with Arjuna how, you know, people are, they're so much engaged in desiring for themselves, right? There's so much engaged in maybe doing some work that the benefits or the fruits from that work is simply for their own sense gratification, for their own enjoyment. And so here, Narada Muni is helping his disciple. Now he's teaching his disciple that perhaps this despondency is coming from this. And so then he tells him, he says that he explains to his disciple that there is a perfection, right? There is a perfection. And then his disciple is like, Vyasadeva is thinking, he's asking, okay, so this perfection, how do I understand this perfection? What is this perfection? And so Narada Muni, as either we will read this later, or maybe we've already read it, that this perfection can only be experienced in devotional service. That is where we experience perfection of understanding our real relationship with the Supreme Lord. And that's explained for us in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, where it says, Bhakti Mama Vijananti, that one can understand the Supreme Lord through devotional service, by no other process, right? That's pretty, someone might say, well, that's so sectarian. How is it that only by devotional service that you can learn about God? How's that? Why is that? There's so many other traditions, right? There's so many other ways that people worship God. So how is it coming from this? And so, okay. He tells so what's happening, Kusha Prabhu? That he explains. Okay, I'm guessing this is being streamed or something. So are we back, Kusha? We're good? Are you muted?
Yes, Mother, we are good. It's okay.
All right. Okay. So devotional service.
I wanted to share the 1855 Bhagavad Gita you quoted.
Oh, I see. Okay. I am 71 years slow. I hope you get that. Okay, so yeah, that's 1855, that one can only understand the Supreme Lord through devotional service, right? That's if we have read the Narada Bhakta Sutra, then we know that this is also explained in the first sutra of the Narada Bhakti Sutra. And so this is Narada Muni. He's totally, you know. Okay, Bala Gopala Prabhu, I'm guessing you have something to say? Okay. All right, are we good?
Yeah, we are good, please.
Okay, and so Bhagavad Gita also explains to us the highest understanding of this perfectional stage of understanding Vedic knowledge, right? Which is why Narada Muni is explaining this to his disciple, that there is a perfectional stage, and even though self-realization does give us it does give us spiritual understanding. However, there's another stage of understanding. Right, and so that's explained to us in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and that explains that. So many of you know this verse: Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto, and everybody can say the rest of this verse. And what it says is that the purpose of all the Vedas is to understand Krishna, is to understand Him. Right, so we want to know why the Guru now Narada Muni, the Guru. That is his service. That is his service to his disciple. Disciple is sad, and the spiritual master helps the disciple to look at different things that may be causing their sadness. And so when Narada Muni gives this instruction to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva immediately, like a light, is awakened, and he's like, yes. This is what is lacking. This is what I need to do. I need to give this knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this knowledge about who Krishna is, right? Who is God? Who is this personality that all of us are hankering to know more about him? This Supreme Personality is given to us as being, we have this opportunity to connect with this personality only, and I say this only 1,000,000 times, by the mercy of the spiritual master. Only by that mercy. Because like Prahlad Maharaj, he's praying, he's asking, how is it that me, Prahlad Maharaj, a young boy that somehow is, in his mind, he's saying, I am full with the modes of material nature. How is it, my Lord, that I am able to see you, to know you? How is that possible? So Prahlad Maharaj helps us to understand the mood of a disciple. And so as a disciple, it is really important for us to understand the mood of other disciples. So we're here learning the mood of Vyasadeva with his Guru Narada Muni. And that kindness, that compassionate nature that we are to imbibe, this authentic compassion. It's not just compassion of knowing that we're souls, part and parcel of the Lord, and that our dharma is to really develop love of God. This is compassion for sure. However, authentic compassion is also understanding that we have a body and we have a mind, we have intelligence. And how do we understand that? This is what Narada Muni did with his disciple. He understood, okay, your mind and your wonderful intelligence wrote all of this, gave us all this about self-realization, which is important. However, there's this other aspect. So it's not in Krishna consciousness, there's a tendency for us to say it's either this or that. We make things either black or white. We make things this way or that way. No, there is also, Krishna is in everything. He's within everything. So how do we develop this understanding of Krishna in the center of everything that we do? This is ultimately the kind of compassion that is needed in this world today. And so, okay, so now we're hearing about this perfection, right? The ultimate perfection. At the same time, great devotees, they pray in the mood that they don't really have this they don't have this perfection. Very great, sincere, dedicated devotees. have prayed because they want to understand more about this perfection. So one such personality that we prayerfully, that we acknowledge in our lives every day, that we appreciate in our lives every day, is Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada, in the mood of Narada Muni, of being authentically compassionate, Srila Prabhupada came to the West, as we know, and he went through so many hardships. I was just hearing the story of Srila Prabhupada when he had when he had a heart attack. I'm saying recently, but when he was in America and he had his heart attack, and the disciples, they were, they of course, they didn't know what was happening. And when he was taken to the hospital and to the doctor, they said, he was told, okay, he had a heart attack. And then Prabhupada, he reflected on some of the symptoms of having a heart attack. And he realized that he had had a heart attack on the Jaladuta, right, on the ship that brought him to America. And at that time, he didn't know it was a heart attack. He had no idea, but he knew. He knew now. He knew years later when he had a second heart attack. Oh, this is the symptoms of what I had on the Jaladuta. So now here is this personality. Here's his personality. He's 70 years old, and I'm 71 years old. And I can tell you, my body aches all the time. And so just imagine. Now, of course, Srila Prabhupada is a transcendental personality and he doesn't identify with the pains of the body. At the same time, though, he told us about what his body had to go through so that we can develop and understand this authentic compassion. He let us know I had the body and I had to deal with that body. And yes, that body was very painful. Srila Prabhupada started his life, his missionary life, of teaching and helping others at 71 years old. That's when he started. And I'm sorry, 69, 70, something like that. My husband is here correcting me. That's why we have husband and wife relationships, so we can always remind each other of what's important. So 69, 70, something like that. So anyway, so here he is. He's totally, this elderly gentleman. However, with this compassion, with this authentic compassion, he comes and he brings us Narada Muni. He has brought us Narada Muni to open our hearts so that we can understand the mood of guru and disciple. So Srila Prabhupada, in his kindness, what he has done in his authentic with his authentic compassion, Srila Prabhupada, he gave us 7 purposes. When he started his organization of ISKCON, he gave us 7 purposes to help us, to guide us, to live a life where we can always remember Krishna in the center of whatever we do. And now I want to see with a show of hands, how many of you know these 7 purposes of Srila Prabhupada? Okay, I know Chaitanya you do, but I don't see your hand. Okay, how many of you don't know these 7 purposes of Srila Prabhupada? Let's just put it like that. How many of you don't know? Okay. Thank you very much. Honesty and transparency is one of the most wonderful and beautiful qualities that we can have as devotees. So I want to talk a little bit about 3 of these purposes of Srila Prabhupada that he compassionately gave us so that we can enter into this mood of Vyasadeva and Narada Muni, right? This mood of guru and disciple, and understand, have a little understanding of the personality Srila Prabhupada did for all of us. And so he says there's 7, he gave 7 purposes. And actually all of ISKCON temples are to be aware of these 7 purposes. They are to guide us in our lives. And so the first principle, the first purpose Srila Prabhupada gives is to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalances of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. This is Srila Prabhupada's first principle. And I can say that I am so very grateful to the devotees in West Africa because, I have seen, since the time that I was in West Africa, which was 8 to 9 years, I have seen that the devotees have evolved so much. And I have seen how they are so dedicated to this purpose. I mean, we can always get better. We can always become just like Vyasadeva. He was lamenting that he didn't do something. So we can always be in that mood of Vyasadeva, lamenting that we can do more. However, just the fact that you are making this knowledge available online like you are, where so many people there in West Africa can access hearing all of these great personalities, excluding myself, that you have brought to share this knowledge of Srila Prabhupada. This is the first principle, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge. And so, well, how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, Prabhupada gave us these purposes, and then we need to apply them. So we need to do that in organized, way with clear direction. We need to outreach without discrimination. Outreach, no discrimination, no tribalism, no, I'm from Ghana, you're from Nigeria. I have a different way of how I look at things, you don't. No, I don't give Krishna consciousness all over the world. No, without discrimination. So you're doing that. You're giving Krishna consciousness. This knowledge is being available to anyone that is willing to listen, because Kusha is making this available, and his team, they're making it available. No religious sectarianism, right? So broad-mindedness, we need to be very open. What can we do? What more can we do? How can we get people to hear this knowledge more and more, right? All people, again, no discrimination, no discrimination. We need to have education and training. That is something that's required. We got to get trained in understanding just the simple mood of guru and disciple. And that's a training. We need to have a value-based system. Values, our values. What are our values? Prabhupada came to teach us how to have character. I was listening to a tape yesterday or the day before about, I think it was Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj that was sharing about there were some people that actually became leaders in our organization that prior to meeting Srila Prabhupada, that they were living in a commune where they were living in trees and they were naked living together in trees. This is in America. And these devotees, they became devotees of Srila Prabhupada. Not only did they become devotees, they became leaders in Srila Prabhupada's movement. This is where they came from, right? For some of the devotees that became such amazing souls that were picked up by Srila Prabhupada. And so this value, it's important to have a value-based society. We also need to be real and authentic and genuine. This is all in this purpose. Unity in community, right? Inclusiveness. We need to include people, not exclude people. It's not because we're a leader and we become autocrats. No, we need to include everyone. We need to know that we belong to this organization. We need to be accepted, right? These are all important aspects of carrying on this purpose. And then ultimately we need peace, right? And Prabhupada says that this Krishna consciousness gives us the peace that we're looking for, because that peace comes from our connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That peace comes from us actually having each other as devotees so we can learn and grow from each other. And then the second purpose, which is to propagate a consciousness of Krishna. So to propagate Krishna as God, as it is revealed in the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. This is why Narada Muni, the spiritual master, spoke to Vyasadeva, the disciple, because he explained to Vyasadeva, you need to give Krishna, you need to give the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada puts that in one of his purpose. He says one of our purposes is to propagate this consciousness from the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Vyasadeva, he was so compassionate. He wrote this for us, right? So that we can carry this on in that mood. And Srila Prabhupada taught us how to do this. And our spiritual masters, the representatives of Srila Prabhupada, are helping us to understand how to do this. Now, some of those disciples are becoming gurus themselves. So those gurus that are having this responsibility, their responsibility is simply to propagate a consciousness of Krishna, to remind us that we are lovers of Krishna. That is what guru does. Nothing else is important. And then the last one that I really want to bring to our attention is that the third purpose, which is to bring the members of society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity. In this way, we will develop idea within the members and humanity at large. Prabhupada is including everyone, that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead. Each soul, right? Each personality. And so that requires work for all of us to develop this mood. We can see that in our devotee association, we argue and we quarrel about unimportant things when we have such big work, such big service to do. You know, we've been so very fortunate to have had so many of Srila Prabhupada's representatives to help us, to guide us, to help us understand how to do this. They have shown by their example. Bhakti Tirthamar showed by his example when he had a dream from his guru, Prabhupada, that told him, go to Africa. He left in 3 days and he went to Africa, right? That's the mood of the guru, that is authentically compassionate. So he gets this instruction and he immediately follows it. And then now, we are to learn from such guru, His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj. There's so many places. He can stay in Bali. Bali is the most wonderful place to be in many ways. Of course, everywhere in the material world is hellish. However, Bali is one of those places I think is not as hellish as other places. So he didn't have to come to Africa. You know, Brahmananda Swami did not have to come to Africa. They are following the instruction of their guru. Right? This is what makes them do that. And so we have these amazing representatives who will not be around for so long. They will not be around. Their bodies are going to be gone. And so we are left, not even me, I won't be around either. All of you are left with this major responsibility to carry out these purposes of Srila Prabhupada, because this is an authentic compassion. Authentic compassion. We want to care about people. It's not that we only care about the Nigerians, or we only care about the Ghanaians, or we only care about those from Ivory Coast, or we only care about the Mauritians, the persons from Mauritius, or we only care about the men and not the women, or we only care about the children and not the women, or we only care about the women and not the men. No, we care about everyone, because we realize that Krishna, Narada Muni, he came to teach Vyasadeva. Krishna is in every one of us, and that Krishna is a person, and that our desire is to be able to reconnect with understanding that supreme person that is all about love. At the end of the day, it is all about love. Yes, this is what we're all aspiring for. And so I wanted to bring this, there's 7 purposes. However, those 3, I believe, are really important in our West African yatra. I still see myself as a part of that yatra, even though it's been many years that I have not been there. However, Krishna sent me back to Africa, even when I wasn't, even when I couldn't be act like a devotee. Krishna sent me back to Africa to teach conflict transformation, conflict resolution. I couldn't wear my neck beads. I couldn't talk to the devotees. I think devotees would sneak into my room in Lagos because I was working kind of in a way where I can't tell I'm a devotee. And I travel all over Africa without being a devotee, without letting people know I was a devotee, because I was teaching, right? I was teaching some secular theme, secular topic. So I see myself always connected to Africa, always. And because of that, I can understand how important these principles are. And I know how much Srila Prabhupada and his disciples have given us to be able to somehow incorporate these principles in our lives. And so I'm going to close with a couple of prayers. One prayer is to help to bring our consciousness into a mood of this sacred conversation between Narada Muni and his disciple, Vyasadeva, how sacred it is to receive instruction from the spiritual master, and how to take advantage of these instructions, because the spiritual master, he will leave. Spiritual master, they have a body, so the body will go. I mean, of course, they never really go. We're always receiving instructions. I'm personally always receiving instructions from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. At the same time, their physical body will not be there. And so it's important. It's so important for us, as a community of lovers of Krishna, to be able to imbibe this mood of what it means to be a disciple. And so I want to close with 2 prayers. So I'm going to take this opportunity. My prayer is not to offend anyone. I'm a disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Therefore, I study what he says. I try to incorporate that in my life. I totally accept that Krishna is so kind. The Lord is so kind. And Srila Prabhupada is so kind that he has many representatives that are assisting many of us in ways to remind us of the same theme, right? It's not that one guru is teaching something different than the other. No, the details may differ in some ways. The strategies may differ in some ways, but the theme, the goal is always the same. Learn how to love Krishna. Never forget Krishna. That's the goal. That's the goal. And if any guru is teaching us anything that's different than that, then they're not really following Srila Prabhupada, because that's what Srila Prabhupada came to give us. He came to give us the remembrance of our relationship with Krishna. And so I'm going to take a moment to share a prayer from Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, who is writing in the mood of the great acharyas like Narottam Das Thakura, like Bhakti Vinod Thakura. They wrote in this mood of praying, just really praying to the Lord, to help us. Because, like Prahlad Maharaj says, we're products of the modes of material nature. And we've been given this humongous, this gigantic, this great understanding, this great knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, how to apply that in our lives, Prabhupada taught us. How to practically apply that, Prabhupada representatives are helping us. And now how we can actually live it, that's on us. That's on each and every one of us. So Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he prays. He says, desire nothing and receive everything. Desire nothing and receive everything. So today is the last day of Damodar. and the month of Kartik. And so I chose this prayer because he's speaking about Damodar. And because here in our community, our worshipful Lord, which is up there, is Radha Damodar. So I chose this prayer to share with all of you. So His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he writes, he says, "My dear Lord Damodar, you can only be bound by pure love. Your devotees are totally surrendered to you in love. Therefore, you have surrendered yourself fully to them and allowed them to capture you. Whenever such devotees are offered any type of boon, they repeatedly refuse, asking only to always remember you, never forget you, and always be able to hear about or serve you and your helpers. Your unalloyed devotees want nothing because they know that everything is within you." He's speaking of Krishna. The saintly king Muchakunda, killed Kalyana with scorching flames from his eyes when he awoke in the cave from his long slumber. Upon seeing Lord Krishna, Muchakunda did not know who he was, but after Krishna explained himself, he offered the king any boon he might request. This is when King Muchakunda offered very heartfelt prayers and told his beloved Lord, "Oh, all-powerful one, I desire no boon other than that most eagerly sought by those free of material desires, service to your lotus feet." King Muchakunda continued, "O Hari, what enlightened person who worship you, the giver of liberation, would choose a boon that causes his own bondage?" This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of King Muchakunda. And so he prays, this is Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj praying, "My dear Lord, when will I become such a devotee? My dear Lord, when will I become such a devotee?" This is a continuous prayer, so I only wanted to read maybe one or two of the verses from this prayer, just to give us that mood of the disciple and how they, first of all, how they give their lives to be in authentic compassion, and how they themselves are always praying to become more sincere servants of the Supreme Lord. And so I read this last one here. After Prahlad Maharaj pacified Lord Nrsingadev with prayers, the Lord asked Prahlad to request a benediction from him. Prahlad immediately became somewhat hurt that the Lord would suggest he was a merchant with ulterior motives for rendering service. Sorry. Prahlad then went on to explain how distasteful it is to ask a material reward of one's beloved Lord, who has already given his devotee so many things, including his life, cognizance, and countless other facilities. When Lord Nrsingadev insisted Prahlad request something of him, Prahlad expressed the desire to have all material aspirations removed from his heart. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th canto. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he prays, "My dear Lord, when will I become such a devotee?" So throughout these prayers, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj is praying to Krishna. He's praying, when will I become the kind of devotee as these great, great saintly persons, the examples that we have throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj is simply following, again, in the mood of devotees like Narottam Das Thakur. You know, he's writing in that mood. And so this last prayer of these great devotees is from Narottam Das Thakur. This is one of the books. Actually, this is such a beautiful Yeah. It's such a beautiful reciprocation, a reciprocation from the spiritual master for disciples, right? So this book is a book of prayers from Narottam Das Thakur. This book was published by one of your own devotees from Nigeria, Ishvara Prabhu. Ishvara Prabhu. He has published so many wonderful spiritual books to assist in this mission, right, of Srila Prabhupada, this first purpose. And so this prayer is from one of those books that Ishvara Prabhu has published for us. And because I really love Narottam Das Thakur's prayers, I thought I would end with this prayer. Narottam Das Thakur says, "Oh, my Lord, Lokanath Goswami," this is his guru he's speaking to, "please keep me at your lotus feet. Please mercifully glance upon me. Only by your mercy, my desire of attaining the shelter of Lord Gauranga here and attaining the shelter of Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world will be fulfilled. If you neglect me, then who else will bestow mercy upon me? Therefore, I pray that you kindly fulfill my desire at this time. Please give me shelter under your lotus feet, for I have no one else but you in the three worlds." Narottam Das wishes to glorify the pastimes and qualities of Radha and Krishna day and night. This is impossible without your mercy. So I want to thank you so very much. If we can meditate on the authentic compassion of the Guru, and that we can pray in the mood of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj today, the last day of Damodar, to become such a devotee, such a sincere devotee as those great personalities that we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, like Kunti Devi, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Muchakunda, like so many great devotees, Golovecha Sridhar Maharaj, so many great, great, great devotees, and that we can somehow fulfill Srila Prabhupada's purpose, even if it's just one of them. We can do at least three. I see that. And you are, and I thank you so very much for all that you are doing to fulfill the desire of your spiritual masters and also ultimately Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you for your wonderful class. Please, if anybody has a question, kindly raise your hand and you will be called. Mother, I have one question.
Yes.
In the course of your lecture, you speak about compassion and all-inclusiveness of our devotees. So my question is, how do we explain or apply compassion at the same time protect Prabhupada House or ISKCON? For example, we know some organizations that come into ISKCON to take away devotees, to join them. How do we apply compassion to these kind of preachers instead of protecting devotees in ISKCON? Because to me, compassion must have a limit of tolerance. So how do we apply this compassion at the same time protecting devotees to remain in ISKCON and not follow like Ridviks for those who say only Prabhupada? How do we show compassion?
Yes. Thank you very much for your wonderful question, Kusha Prabhu. It's beautiful to hear devotees thinking about these delicate topics. Firstly, authentic compassion means we see everyone as parts and parcels of Krishna, and that we understand that Krishna, being the most magnanimous, the most kind, that he gives us choices. He allows us to have choices. And with those choices, we as individuals can decide, where we want to be aligned. Some persons might choose not to be aligned with ISKCON. And it's not that ISKCON is the only organization that's teaching love of God. That's very important for us to know. At the same time, we do have our allegiance and our loyalty to ISKCON. Now, what I've understood from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and from Srila Prabhupada is that we, first of all, need to take responsibility for ourselves to have firm faith and to be able to be equipped with knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We ourselves need to first look at ourselves and see, where am I in my faith, in my commitment to the words of my spiritual master, and ultimately, to the Supreme Lord. Where am I with that? Now, in terms of our allegiance in ISKCON, we can really only take responsibility for ourselves, right? Now, how do we extend that compassion to others? Well, as I said, we understand that if someone, the verse in the verse, Narada Muni is sharing with Vyasadeva about what Prabhupada shares in the purport, what hinders or what stops a person from actually understanding about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So impersonalism, fruitative activities, these are the obstacles. If someone is taking shelter of impersonalism and they're taking shelter of fruitative activities, means sense gratification for their own benefit, then we know that they're walking on a different path, right? If someone is aspiring to love Krishna and they're choosing not to be a part of ISKCON, we can extend our compassion. At the same time, we can understand that, we are committed. I'm committed. And we are to help those persons around us to be committed. My spiritual master taught me many years ago. He said, my loyalty is to ISKCON. My loyalty is to my spiritual master. I heard that. It wasn't just words. That was imbibed in my heart. And this is why today I'm part of ISKCON. Today I'm a part of the Parampara in terms of Srila Prabhupada. So at the same time, though, I don't harbor resentment and anger with those persons that may make other choices. Krishna gives us that freedom, that free will to make choices. Now, if those persons are directly or indirectly, as you said, Kusha Prabhu, coming into Prabhupada's house or Prabhupada's mission and taking people away, then that means we're not really following these principles that Prabhupada has given to us, these purposes. Because if people become strong in ISKCON, if they become strong in our philosophical teachings, if they become strong in their allegiance to the spiritual master, they won't go. People usually leave because they have needs, right? And in a humanistic way, everybody needs affection, attention. Everybody needs, all human beings, it's universal. They need support. And when they don't think they're getting that, and maybe, they think they can get that in some other place, then they go, right? So that's a strategy. That's really just a strategy. It's like a detail. Does that stop those persons from loving God, from developing love for Krishna? No, some of those persons have become even more sincere to love Krishna. Now, coming into our organization, coming into Prabhupada's house to take people away, that's immaturity on their part. And so they Krishna will help them with that. We can pray for them. That would be our compassion. And we can train the people that are around us in ways that they can develop allegiance to Srila Prabhupada. We ourselves need to be that in such a way that they will be inspired by us. And if they're not, because that's always possible, we live in a world of duality. If they're not, then we bless them and we pray for them and we allow them to be under Krishna's shelter, because that's what Krishna wants. He loves all his parts and parcels. And please, yes, we have allegiance to ISKCON and we love ISKCON, but however, there are 4 sampradayas. And that's even in a whole other kind of way of speaking. And so also there are different moods of how people want to love Krishna, how they want to learn to love Krishna. And yeah, people choose. We might be a little hurt. I totally get that. We may be hurt because yes, it's just like when you grow up in a family and you have your brothers and your sisters, and then one of your brothers or one of your sisters decide, I don't want to be a part of this family anymore. I don't love my mother or my father anymore. Or maybe I love my mother and father, but I love them from my uncle. I prefer my uncle than my mother and my father. It hurts. Yeah, it hurts a lot. However, we need to then go to the philosophy. We need to go to the philosophy.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you for your answer. We have a question from Utpala Prabhu in the chat room.
Utala.
Utpala said, my question is this. You were lucky to get personal instruction from Guru Dev before he left. Here in chapter 5 of first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, we see Narada Muni giving personal instruction to Vyasadeva. So now comes the question, what is the hope of those who are not fortunate enough to receive direct last personal instruction from their guru? What should they hold on to?
Utpala Prabhu, I think you have understood very well personal instruction. I am sure, that you see spiritual master physicality is important in some ways. However, it's not the most important, right? In some ways it is. However, we can get instruction from the spiritual master in the heart, right? And so you have received instruction from the spiritual master in the heart. Otherwise, you have not been able to write the book that you did. So you're following totally in the mood of the spiritual master by sharing, for the benefit of all the devotees, your realizations about growing up in a spiritual movement, with having given a spiritual teacher. So fortune is how we look at how our perception, it's an our perception, because yes, in many ways, it's having had that personal instruction from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was helpful because I needed it to grow spiritually. Yes. However, like I said, it's available for everyone. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, they are available for all of us at any time. It is our responsibility how we connect with them.
Thank you, Mother. Our next question is from Bhuvana Sundari Devidasi. Bhuvana, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
I get to speak. It's Agora. Hari Hari.
Hi, thank you so much for your class. It's really, really inspiring. I wanted to ask, you were saying something about Bali. When you were saying His Holiness Swami was, he likes to stay in Bali. So I don't know if the Bali. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you something about Bali, and I said something about Bali, the country.
Yeah, okay, it's a country. Oh, I just want to know if it's a country or the name of a temple. And also, there's another question. When you were mentioning the 7 things, you said something about desiring nothing and receiving everything. So I want you to throw more light on that, desiring nothing and receiving everything. So we should not desire and we should receive everything. Just throw more light on it for us or make it a bit more understanding.
Thank you very much for your beautiful question. Thank you so much. It's just like in this purport, so Vyasadeva, the disciple, he actually had already written so much, he'd given so much. he wasn't really looking for anything for himself. And his guru instructed him how to give more, right? And so by him meditating, the Lord actually gave him the Srimad Bhagavatam that we have today. And so we're all benefiting from that. So he didn't want anything for himself. He just wanted to serve others. And when we serve others, we receive everything, right? So this is the mercy. It's just like, in a very simple way, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, when he came to Africa, he wasn't thinking anyway about himself. Now, Srila Prabhupada, even before Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj went to Africa, Srila Prabhupada told his disciples to go to Africa, right? He wanted his disciples to go to Africa. And he specifically told his disciples, I want you to preach to the African devotees. This was Srila Prabhupada. And so Prabhupada didn't want anything. Yet look at all of the beautiful African devotees that have come from that desire. How much has he received? So the more we give, the more we get. The more we give, the more we receive. And when we don't want anything for what we give, when we just giving unconditionally, then we receive so much more. Prabhupada says, when he went to America, he had nothing, 25 rupees or whatever, nothing. And how much he received, how much? So it's by giving that we receive. So back to the thing of desire. It's not that we don't have desires. We're human, we're in a human body. We will always have desires. What we will do though, as we are trained, as we learn, as our hearts open, as we become more purified, we will learn how to offer those desires to Krishna. We will learn how to do everything that we do with an offering to Krishna. It's like Mother Krishnandini, one of the things that she said when she was nurturing children, she had 10 children. And so she would think, whenever I'm combing my kids' hair, I'm combing it for Krishna. When I'm bathing, taking off a diaper, I'm doing it for Krishna. Whatever I'm doing it for Krishna. That's the mood. Everything is for Krishna. Now that takes practice. It takes mercy from Guru to help us to develop that consciousness. I can't say that I have that consciousness. I am praying. This is why I love Narottam Das Thakur, because the prayers, just reading his prayers, opens my heart to what's possible.
So I need to ask Hare Krishna.
Hey, Ishwara.
Thank you, Mother. Our next question is from, yes, Prabhu, we come to you. We have two people who raised up their hand on the forum. Bhaktivedanta Youth Forum, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, senior devotees, you have no authority here. Okay. Yes, Bhaktivedanta.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble greeting.
Haribol, are you still in Mauritius?
Yes, I'm still in Mauritius.
Hey, thank you so much. You send out these beautiful, beautiful quotes all the time. I just love when I hear from you. I didn't know you're the person behind. You see, there's always somebody behind. Yay.
Thank you. Mata, my question is in regards to the class that you just gave. We come to understand that it is very important that we should listen directly to the instruction of the spiritual master, and the spiritual master can instruct us from different angles. But my question mainly is in regards to most of us, when we come to Krishna consciousness, or when we are in ISKCON, we tend to like, this is ISKCON, so I need to fight for ISKCON. It's like we become too much of a sectarian, that we say, I need to fight for ISKCON. And in the process of doing that, we forget the main purpose of why we actually became a devotee, which is to understand that, which is to transcend beyond the body. So my question is, when we start saying, I need to fight for ISKCON, I need to fight for Srila Prabhupada, is it that, are we not conditioning ourselves back to, I am this body? Are we rising above this mentality that I am not this body? This is my question, Mata.
Nice question. Yeah, very nice question. So ISKCON. Prabhupada says ISKCON is my body. So ISKCON, it's not an ordinary organization. ISKCON is dedicated to giving people transcendental knowledge. And not to say that other organizations don't have that, because many do. Many places you can find transcendental knowledge. At the same time, ISKCON, Prabhupada, he was specifically sent to help us. And he formed this organization that is to, as I shared earlier, to share with others these principles, these purposes, to help others to come closer to Krishna. Now, sectarianism is not a part of ISKCON. It's not a part of what Prabhupada, wanted for the followers of ISKCON. There's no way that we have ever heard of Srila Prabhupada being sectarian. Prabhupada lived with people in the very beginning who ate meat. Prabhupada, when he went to live in Manhattan, those persons were impersonalists. Dr. Mishra was an impersonalist. Prabhupada lived with them. So we're never sectarian. Sectarianism, yes, it is a part of bodily identification. Now, how do we, given that understanding, how do we have compassion for those persons that may want to, or may still act on a sectarian platform? Because we as devotees are being trained. We're being trained to see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. So if someone is choosing a different organization, or they're choosing impersonalism, or they're choosing primitive activities, we need to be able to identify that, and at the same time, extend our compassion to those persons. That is not always easy. That's not always easy. That is where we need the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. That's where we need the mercy of our Gurudev. I just read yesterday, I think, on the chat, as I read the chat, just to let you guys know, I'm very much aware of what goes on the chat. And I saw Kavichandra Maharaj writing in such a humble way to many of the devotees, because the devotees were being somewhat sectarian. So, we have sectarianism in all different fields, different areas. And the devotees were being sectarian in their perceptions and really very grossly bodily conscious. And the way Maharaj responded was just very humble, in the mood of being a devotee. And that is all we can do, is we can be humble, and we can be compassionate, and we can understand that people are in different modes of material nature, and that we're all purifying, we're all getting purified. And sometimes it's sad when we see people doing things that we know are only going to create more conflict. We already have so much conflict in the world, yet we have such ease with conflicts in our organization. It becomes like normal. And so the only way to address conflicts in many cases is to understand the other person. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, walk in the other person's shoe. So I hope that's helpful. You seem like someone that wants to not be sectarian. I can see by the quotes that you send. So please be an instrument of that. You be the loving person. What does Gandhi say? You be the change.
You want to see the world.
Yes.
Thank you, Mother, for your answer.
Yes.
Prabhu Shivara, please, you can go ahead, but we have 3 people before you. But just go ahead and ask your question.
Where's the senior devotee? Did he disappear? That's what we do, you know?
No, he's still there.
Ishwara Prabhu. Okay, I pray he didn't take an offense.
Kavya, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Well, here's Ishwara. Ishwara is here.
Okay. Oh, Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Oh, okay, you can hear me. 1 second. I think it's kind of dark, isn't it? Because this is Vrindavan. Our light goes on and off in Vrindavan.
Yeah, you're in Vrindavan, though. All glories.
Yep. I'm in Vrindavan right here. We just finished a wonderful Kartik.
Oh, you did?
So,
that's right. You're a day ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I was just going to ask you if you can share your secret of youth to all the devotees. It's like you seem to be 71 years old. It's like you look practically the same since the last time I saw you, but since I first saw you 40 years ago. You look practically the same. So what is your secret of youth? You can enlighten the devotees how to remain youthful and maybe because stay in Krishna consciousness.
Well, you know, the transcendental answer is the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The humanistic answer is I live a simple life, free from conflicts as much as possible. And I really, really pray and to be a compassionate soul, because that's what my Guru Maharaj asked me to do, to be compassionate. And I have found that as I learn to be more genuinely, authentically compassionate, then I connect deeper with my true self. And you know, our true self never ages.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Mother. Kavya, please.
Hare Krishna, Ma, thank you very much for your wonderful lecture. So in the course of your lecture, you mentioned about during the story of Narada Muni, and yesterday we talked about the compassion of the guru to the disciple. So I was just thinking about that, and it comes to my mind that sometimes we see that in the course of guru-disciple relationship, sometimes the guru become bossy in terms of, let's say, for example, let's say the disciple wants to become a grihasta. Maybe the guru say, no, you have to be a brahmachari. Or maybe let's say this disciple wants to go and walk. The guru say, no, you have to stay in the temple. So how can we understand the mercy of the guru, or the guru be compassionate to the disciple? How can we understand this relationship, Ma? Thank you.
Gotta keep chanting Hare Krishna. Because understanding the guru comes from purification. And when we chant the holy names of the Lord, and when we chant the names of Krishna, then we become purified more and more. And, you know, guru means heavy. That's what guru means. And so guru also, as we see with Narada Muni, he spoke, it wasn't that he wasn't giving Vyasadeva heavy instruction, you know, I mean, it's all in perception, because he was saying to him, like, okay, are you just happy with the body and the mind? And he did say, you know, like, okay, you need to focus on the Supreme Lord. It's just that Vyasadeva was a disciple that was, you know, submissive. So sometimes disciples don't understand guru. They don't understand what guru means. Guru does mean heavy. Guru means, you know, he's that guru, he or she. Now I'm going to say she because there's apparently women. So he or she, they know the hearts of their disciple. It's you know, they understand the disciple. And remember, the mood of the guru is to help someone remember Krishna. So if the guru sees that a person may not remember Krishna by getting involved in Grihastha life, the guru can understand that. The disciple may not understand that because the disciple may want sense gratification. So it's the duty of the guru. It's the duty of the guru, the service of the guru to assist the disciple. Now, one thing is that disciples don't always remember, that they can speak to their gurus. I think that's one of the challenges that I see sometimes that devotees have in our ISKCON organization. They don't have a genuine relationship with their spiritual master, where they can say to their spiritual master, yes, you've given me this instruction. However, I'm having difficulty, following that. So can we revisit this instruction? Maybe the guru says, no, become a brahmachari, because the guru might think, okay, this will help this person to control their senses. But let's say after some time, the disciple, which I've seen, I work as a counselor, so I can tell you this. I know many devotees that either instructed by the guru or they themselves decide to be brahmacharis. And as a counselor, they will tell me, but Mata, I look at pornography. But Mata, I do this. But Mata, I do that. Because I have an open and honest relationship with them. And then I can say, you need to go to your spiritual master. And maybe you don't want to tell him you're looking at pornography, but maybe you want to say, can we kind of look at this again, Gurudev, because I am having problems with following this instruction. Guru by nature is very kind. They try to give us the highest. However, most of the time we aren't able to follow the highest in many cases. And then we can go to the guru and we can share. I'm sorry, I'm trying, but I'm having difficulty. And maybe he will give us some more grace and mercy in a different way. Maybe, I don't know. Everyone has a personal relationship with their spiritual master. However, I do encourage every devotee to speak with their spiritual master. It is very important. You have to have a relationship. That's the whole purpose of Narada Muni speaking to Vyasadeva, about giving Krishna the personality of Godhead. It's a relationship with the personality of Godhead. So we got to have a relationship with the guru and not be afraid to look good. So many times devotees just want to look good. So the guru says, be a brahmachari. So we're going to be I'm a brahmachari. I learn all the verses. I'm just so, respected in my orange cloth, whatever. And in the meantime, they're doing different things, So it's best to be honest, best to be transparent, best to go to the guru and say, this is challenging. Can we talk about this? Maybe not as how do you say, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, for whatever the reasons, he just encouraged us to be honest with him and share. And he's the guru that he understood his disciples, what they're capable and not capable of doing. And he always he would know if he asked somebody to, let's say, he's at different times asked devotees. There's a devotee I know that he told him, be a sannyasi. And the devotee was like, okay, Gurudev. He'd been a brahmachari for a while. And he was like, okay. And then he realized he couldn't do it. And he went back and he said, I can't do it. Maybe can't is a word in a fool's dictionary, as Prabhupada says. So maybe he didn't want to do it. So he went and he told them. And so my guru says, okay, let's shift. So disciples, we're persons. We're individuals also. Don't forget you're individual. Don't forget to have your voice. What will the guru do? Admonish you again? Then that's not, guru is kind by nature. Is Kavi Chandra Maharaj on this class?
No, Mother is not on the class.
Okay. Good.
Thank you for your wonderful class. Kavi, do you have any other question? Your hand is still up. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your amazing service, Prabhu. I still remember you from Mayapur.
Oh, thank you very much, Ma. Hare Krishna, Ma. So thank you very much.
It's very beautiful that you have gone back and that you are giving yourself in service.
Thank you, Ma. Hare Krishna.
Just have courage to inspire those devotees that don't have a relationship with the guru to reach out to the guru. Actually, sometimes the guru want that. They want that. And it takes the disciples to even if the guru might be a little aloof, if many disciples start going to that, the guru will be able to change.
Okay, ma. Thank you very much, ma. We're very grateful to have your association, ma. Thank you, ma.
I am the one that's grateful. I am happy. Thank you. I'm so happy. And where's Kusha? Okay, Kusha.
I'm here. Please, any other question? If not, I still have some questions. We have 15 minutes to go.
Kusha, are you not seeing my hand?
Okay. Ojesvadi David Darcy has a question, but your hand disappeared. I didn't see it again.
My hand is short.
Please ask your question.
Thank you, Mother, for a nice class. My question is, the test today, what if it is the other way around? That we see our guru is not in a very happy condition. At that point, what can a disciple do? Because in our test, the guru is seeing the disciple despondency. What if it is the other way around, that the guru is not in a happy mode and the devotee happens upon him? What can he do? The disciple do? You understand my question, Madam?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, Urjaiswari, that's very thoughtful and very compassionate question. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Madam.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to see my guru sad many times.
Yeah.
Because yeah, he was faced with many challenges, you know, from disciples, from God family, from institution, from so many things. And so he would be sad. However, you know, emotions, whether they're sad emotions or happy emotions, they're feelings, and feelings pass, you know, feelings don't stay.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come, though, when we have these emotions, we may have different ways that we kind of address them. And sometimes a disciple might think a guru is maybe not happy. However, we don't always know, because gurus are internal. You know, they're very internal. So they may externally seem unhappy, but internally they may be very much enjoying their relationship with Krishna. They, you know, so we don't always know. However, if we are able to ask our guru, are you sad about any? Is everything okay? You know, guru is a person also. Is everything okay? Are you feeling okay? And then the guru, you know, may, with some disciple, possibly, if they have, you know, depending on the guru disciple relationship, may say, yeah, you know, this is causing me some sadness. Like I'm guessing that the conversations that's been on the chat recently must have been really sad for His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj, because I mean, it was sad for me, and I'm not a guru. So, you know, I'm sure it was sad. At the same time, though, you know, he has higher understanding and he has deeper compassion. So it's not really sad. It's just like, oh, you know, it's really compassion. It's really like deep compassion. Oh, why is it that we got to go here? Why do we have to go to this place? You know, why are we in this place? So, but however, it's wonderful that you are thinking about this. You know, Krishna saw that Arjuna was, you know, he didn't want to fight the war, and Arjuna was sad at many times, lamenting about all his family members. And Krishna, he had empathy. He empathized with him. He was empathetic in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. He was like listening to him. He listened to Arjuna, and then he was empathetic. And then at a certain point, because this was Krishna was able to help Arjuna out of that despondency, out of that mood of being sad. Now, we may not be able to do that because we may not have that kind of relationship with the guru, but however, maybe someone else does. And we can speak, maybe another disciple does, and we can speak to that disciple. Oh, Prabhu, it seems like Gurudev is not feeling happy. Can you check in with him? Right? So just like we do that for each other, We can also do that for the guru. So maybe there's a senior devotee that has a closer relationship in the sense of, you know, maybe they're able to share things on a more personal level. And so we can approach them and we can ask them, Prabhu, can you please check in with Gurudev and see how he's doing? And then to let the guru know, you can write a letter to the guru. Guru, it seems like you're not, you know, maybe something is making you unhappy. There's nothing I can do as a disciple. However, I'm just concerned about you. Guru is a person. He wants to know that devotees, that people care about him. He wants to know that. Sometimes we forget. We put people on all different kind of, I don't know where we put people once they take on roles. Like now, I was so happy for Bhakti Charadeshana Swami. I was so happy that now he has this huge responsibility. At the same time, I was so sad because I know, oh my gosh, he's getting on the hot seat. He's gonna start now experiencing all kinds of emotions, you know, that he probably didn't even know he had. Because when you take responsibility, you know, for Krishna, and you take responsibility for Krishna's parts and parcels, you're dealing with their minds. And that's not always easy, you know, so please write your guru, talk to a senior devotee to connect with your guru, or if you can, talk to your guru yourself. It's important. Thank you for at least having that kind of compassion for the guru.
Thank you, Mother. We have only 7 minutes to let you take rest, but I have one last question to disturb you.
I just woke up.
Yes. We have one last controversial question.
All right.
My question is on the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj and Krishna answering his prayers, and Krishna not answering the prayers of devotees in Kali Yuga who are preaching his mission. Because Prahlad was only preaching to his demoniac friends, and only his father was his enemy. Krishna appeared and Singadev and gave him protection. But in ISKCON, many gurus are sick, suffering, left the body in a sad way, preaching the whole world. Krishna seems to neglect. This is my concern. What is happening? Prahlad only in school, Singadev give protection. But other gurus are preaching in hard situations. Krishna neglected them without any protection. And most of them left the body. So does it mean that Krishna only answers prayers of people who came directly or who have his previous association in Goloka Vrindavan, and the people in Kali Yuga, Krishna doesn't really seems to be there when needed for protection?
That's such a beautiful question. Thank you so much. Well, firstly, Krishna is so kind. He sent us Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came himself as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us the holy name. So we'll never want to forget that. And then as far as Prahlad Maharaj went through a lot, Prabhu. I mean, he was thrown in with snakes, and he was tortured, and he went through all kinds of stuff before he actually was, you know, given that protection from Krishna. I mean, he was always protected by Krishna, but it wasn't that his body didn't go through stuff. His body went through a lot of stuff. Dhruva Maharaj, his mind went through a lot of stuff, right? He was insulted, he took it personally. Then he went and he performed all these austerities. What all the stuff that Dhruva Maharaj did. I mean, God, I couldn't even begin to this was Kartik, and just the one austerity of eating once a day, it was just excruciatingly painful. What to speak of like these persons that, you know, they went through all these different very, very painful situation. Mother Kunti, what did she go through, you know, before, you know, we see like on one level, we see like when Krishna gives these personalities the mercy, although he's always giving the mercy. And sometimes we don't see what these devotees have gone through, you know, just like, there's just so many personalities that have suffered terribly. I mean, look at Look at Lord Nityananda. He was beaten over the head, right? So many personalities. And Krishna's always there, is always there. Now, a lot of what the devotees go through is really to help us, is really to teach us that no matter what we go through, no matter what does Lord Chaitanya says, whether you handle me roughly by your embrace or makes me brokenhearted, you are my Lord, birth after birth after birth. So that's the mood of the devotees. No matter what, I will love you and I will serve you and I will share that love with others. So Kusha Prabhu, let's start praying for some calamities, some real calamities, so that we can think about Krishna, and then we will really experience Krishna. You know, when Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was leaving his body, you know, there was one day and I'm sure most of you hear this, Radhanath, His Holiness Radhanath Swami had brought these chanters, these devotees that were from Vrindavan, you know, to chant for him, to sing. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was in his bed. It was a few days before he was leaving. And, you know, he really couldn't move so well, but he was just like, you know, he was just really in ecstasy with this chanting. His body was in pain. He couldn't move his body, but he was hearing like this holy names, right, from these chanters. And then Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, it does not get better than this. His body was paining, but he said, it does not get better than this. So those great devotees that appear to be going through physical things, they are internally in ecstasy, in ecstasy. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was in ecstasy. Anybody that came to his room during the time when he was leaving his body, they would come out of this room, they will be tears pouring down their face. You know, like one time Radhanath Maharaj says, Maharaj, what's happening here? These devotees, I've never seen them act like this. These devotees, they never listen to anybody. They never, you know, they were also reverential in your room. They were all like, just kind of, you know, it just seemed like they went into a whole different place. And they came out of his room and they were just tears, torrents of tears pouring down their face, right? And those were hardcore devotees, because, you know, we have some hardcore devotees in ISKCON, even some tough devotees. And so, so Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, you know, his love was just like everywhere. And his physical body, it wasn't like his physical body was in pain, but anybody that came near to him when he was in that condition, leaving his body, they all got like some kind of like benediction of, you know, something. They all changed. They all look different. Even Radhanath Swami, when he came to stay with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he came to stay for 1 week. And then he ended up staying like almost 2 months. It just, you know, it was just so infectious, that love that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was giving at that time. And of course, Radhanath Swami giving to him back, you know, it didn't have anything like his body, his stuff with his body. I mean, I don't know. That wasn't the focus, you know, although we were aware that his body was uncomfortable. At the same time, that wasn't his focus. Yeah.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you so much for a wonderful class, and we thank you for coming. 2 hours. We are sorry for keeping you this long.
I am kind of long-winded, so I maybe could have answered more questions, but I think I got that from, I don't know. Anyway, I'm like that. I speak a lot.
Please, we ask all devotees to unmute yourselves and let's chant Hare Krishna for Mother for coming. Look forward for next time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Mother.
Hare Krishna.
Please bless me, dear devotees. Please bless me.
So, let's chant Hare Krishna for Mother for coming. Look forward for next time.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother Bride.
Krishna, Krishna. Thank you, Atma Devi.
Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Peace, bless you. Peace, bless you, Dave.
Gurudev. Jai Bhakti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Thank you, Mother Bride. Jai Gurudev.
Atma Devi.
Hare Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Peace, bless you. Peace, bless you, Dave.
Gurudev. Jai Bhakti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Thank you, Mother Bride. Jai Gurudev. Hare Rama. Hare
Gurudev. Jai Bhakti. Hare Krishna. Gurudev. Jai Bhakti. Hare Krishna.